I'm divorcing you. Leave my apartment, my husband declared to me one midnight when he unexpectedly came home. I was taken aback, as nothing had forewarned me. After all, I wasn't even working. We had been married for 6 years. A year ago, Igor changed jobs. Through connections, he landed a good position. That's when he said it. When I come home, I need a hot meal, a warm bath, and an understanding wife. Quit your job. I hadn't built any career, but I did contribute financially to the household. Yet, since my husband said he needed me at home, I acquiesced. Are you sure? I can cook in the mornings, wake up earlier, and what will you look like in a month living like that? Valeria? No, let's have you work as a homemaker. He hugged me, kissed me, reassured me, so I left my job. Now, I was at home 24/7, keeping the place clean, awaiting my husband with a delicious hot dinner in the evening, and his salary did indeed cover our needs. He even changed his car and started considering buying a larger apartment. However, Igor started coming home later in the past few months. He'd explained to me with a serious face, "Did you think money just comes easily? Sometimes I have to work even at nights." At nights? In the office? My husband always had plausible explanations. I thought about having a child, but for some reason, it didn't happen. Out of sheer boredom. I visited a doctor, got examined. "Everything's fine with you," the doctor shrugged, "your husband should also get checked." I tried to talk to Igor about it, but it turned into a scandal. Several times, he repeated behind my back, as if I was joining a cult. "I thought we wanted a child," I mumbled, feeling ashamed. "Not now, Valeria." "Why not now?" No one explained. And a few weeks later, Igor announced he was divorcing me, and I had to leave. I tried talking to him, but it was futile. Before me stood a completely different person. When did he become so distant? I must have missed something. "Do you have someone else?" I still asked. "That's none of your business." The next day, I packed my things, crying over every vase, every pillow, every towel I left behind. I chose and bought everything with such love, and now, there would be a new mistress here. I couldn't possibly take everything with me if I didn't even know where I was going. It was strange that I cried over the abandoned items. I should have been crying over the collapsed marriage, but I couldn't. Everything inside me had turned to stone. After gathering my belongings, I started calling my friends. They were very surprised when I asked if I could stay with any of them. Suddenly, they all had renovations, floods, and visiting relatives. I was ashamed to go back to my mom, but it seemed I had no choice. The phone slipped from my hand as I pondered what to tell my critical mother. I picked it up and noticed that Mistress Maria's contact was open, a former colleague. She seemed to have mentioned living alone. Maria was considerably older than me, we had never been close, but... "Hello, Mistress Maria, it's Valeria, hi. I have a really silly question, and if the answer is no, I'll understand." "Speak, Valeria, quickly, I'm a bit busy here. Could you shelter me for a few days? It's a bit of a story." My husband kicked me out. "A story's a story," Mistress Maria said indifferently. "Come by at 8 tonight, I'll send you the address." And she hung up. I looked at the phone, utterly shocked. Well, I never. I called a taxi by 6:30, the journey wasn't close. Traffic in the evening, and I slammed the door shut. Into the apartment, into my marriage, into my past life. Mistress Maria was already home, the aromas of meat and fresh vegetables wafting from the kitchen. She helped me carry in the suitcase, showed me around, and told me to come to the kitchen. When I cleaned up, changed into something casual, and came out, the hostess had already set the table, and she brought out a bottle of wine. Cried? She asked. Only over pillows and vases. Well, that's sacred, but you need to let it out. I just can't. Start talking, Valeria, you'll be able to. We ate and drank wine, and I talked. Maria was right, I broke down. Then, when I was tired of complaining and crying, Maria told me about her husband. He left her for someone else, then tried to come back. Maria didn't let him, and she's been living alone since the divorce. Why? I didn't understand. Because I love my husband. But why didn't you let him back? I widened my eyes. Well, dear, I don't need that kind of hockey. How can I rely on him if he wags his tail at the first sign? You don't go to war with such people, you need someone you can rely on. You can go anywhere. We sometimes make mistakes in our choices, and love is cruel, but I don't want to be with a traitor, and I advise you not to either. Yes, he found someone else too, I won't be with them, he abandoned me. Igor. I even asked if he found someone. But it's none of my business. How can that be, after so many years, and it's not my business? I tried to cry again, but there were no more tears. There was no stone either, just emptiness and melancholy inside. I missed my husband, and I felt like this was just the beginning. Maria seemed to not listen to me. She said, when your husband returns, also think 10 times whether you need such an unreliable person. He won't be back, I waved my hand hopelessly. Will you work? I talked to the boss about you today, you can start tomorrow. Really? I widened my eyes. Really, why sit around? Engage your brain with work, you'll get over your sorrow faster. I was grateful to this wise, kind woman, not only for the bed and the job help, but mostly for this conversation, which helped me ease my soul and put my head on straight. Life went on, I worked, rented a room, went to study design, didn't date guys, learned my lesson, as you know. Sometimes Maria and I would go out to a cafe to catch up, just us girls. She'd say to me, Valeria, don't be like me, do you really want to spend your whole life alone? Why do you push everyone away? It's just that nothing feels like mine yet, you know? Mine or not mine, and by the way, Mistress Maria, it's not too late for you to get married either. She just snorted in response, we talked about everything. Even at that moment. When two lonely souls came together, we didn't feel deprived or unhappy. But Maria was right, I needed to keep an eye out for both sides of fate, I didn't want to spend my whole life alone. Spring came, it had been a year since my divorce. One day after work, I saw Igor, my ex-husband, standing by his car, scrutinizing the passers-by intently. He looked worn out, and my heart stung sharply. I had convinced myself that I didn't miss him. We didn't embrace. Igor drove me home and told me about his life. Things hadn't been going well for him lately. He had remarried but realized he had made a huge mistake. He went into the marriage like an angel and came out with a wicked witch. As we reached my house, I felt the urge to leave, to get away from him and his misfortunes. It was suffocating with Igor and his troubles. I'll go, Igor. Everything will work out. Valeria, forgive me, he suddenly pleaded with tears in his eyes. Forgive me, I was wrong. I understand now. I'll never treat you like that again. Let's start over. A picture flashed in my mind, me sitting on the floor, surrounded by bags with my belongings, my friends unwilling to let me stay with them even for a few days, and only enough money for a taxi. I'm sorry, Igor, but it's definitely over. Never before had I been so resolute. But why? Igor asked, defeated. I just can't go to war with you again. Exiting the car, I walked towards my home, feeling lightness in every cell. Goodbye, past life. Life.